Good morning. I'm Danielle Palli, and today I'd like to talk about what happens when we project traits on others that we ourselves possess, or maybe traits we've worked through and we're hypersensitive to when we see them in other people. And we're going to look at it from the perspective of how can we use this for self-reflection, for self-observation, in order to develop greater emotional intelligence. Now, I'm going to give a few different examples, and I want to preface this by saying I've spoken with hundreds of people over the years, so I'm not pinpointing any one or two people. And these scenarios are hypothetical based on many conversations. So I promise if you and I have worked together one-on-one for coaching, I am not talking about you. This is a general example. So let's begin. One example of projecting ideas onto other people would be if I'm speaking with someone and at work, they're complaining about the environment. My boss is too shallow. All my coworkers care about are the fancy cars, the fancy jewelry, the designer clothes. They're all about appearances. And then there's me. I don't care about that stuff. And we go into a meeting and I know they're making fun of me. Stop the scene. As the conversation continues, we ask, well, what makes you think they're making fun of you? What makes you insecure about speaking up? And it comes down to, well, they're judging me because I don't live like them. Well, but in the beginning of the conversation, it began with, they're too shallow, they're too this. So who is judging whom? And in those situations, when we find ourselves, and we all do it, we're human, we find ourselves judging other people, use it as an opportunity to think, well, how do I feel when I feel like people are judging me? How do I feel when the tables are turned? And how can I be less judgmental in life? Another example would be in relationships. If you have a partner and perhaps you're complaining, she's too sensitive. I'm constantly having to walk on eggshells because every time I say the littlest thing, she starts crying and runs out of the room. Conversation continues. And then maybe there was one time where the partner didn't cry and run out of the room, but actually stood up for themselves. And the follow-up might be, well, I got really triggered by that and I stormed out of the room because I just didn't want to deal with it. Who's walking on eggshells? If you're accusing someone else of being too sensitive, look at your own sensitivities. And in what ways could you use that as an opportunity for personal growth? Another one from relationships. I know he's not being honest with me and he's really manipulative. I know he's been talking to someone else, though he said he wasn't. I know because I checked his email and his phone when he wasn't around. And when I saw that he was talking to her, I got mad and I called my ex and we went out for coffee, see how he likes it. You're accusing someone you're dating, and I am all for being honest. and, and trust is very important to me in a relationship. But if you're accusing someone of not being completely honest and being manipulative, and you're, say, looking at their email, their phone, whatever, when they're not around, you're not being completely honest. And if you're going out to talk to an ex to make them jealous, well, that could be construed as being manipulative. So if you're calling someone in a relationship on their lack of honesty or their manipulation tactics, maybe, maybe not, but take a look at your own reactions to things in that relationship. And again, you might see these traits in other people and don't have them yourself. This is just an exploration in looking at your own behaviors to kind of see where you might grow. And one more example. This is in the workplace when someone is very perfectionist. Why is it so hard for her to do X, Y, and Z? I hold myself to high standards. Why can't she do the same? Why is she so afraid to take chances? And usually this is the person who berates themselves for every little thing. And when they are less than perfect, they are very hard on themselves, very self-deprecating. And there's always a sense of never being accomplished enough and never being good enough. Now, again, just because you notice bad behavior in someone else doesn't mean that you have these traits yourself. Not in every single case. But this is an opportunity to develop emotional intelligence, greater self-awareness, and social awareness. When you find yourself making critical comments about someone else, consider your own behavior, because this is an opportunity to fine-tune how you approach and communicate with the world. Thanks for joining me.